Okay, how's it going, guys? So I thought I'd do a review of my latest Seiko because it's an absolute beauty. It really is. So this is a Seiko Samurai, and it's the Save the Ocean Great White Special Edition. And they've added a couple of little sort of tweaks to the standard Samurai. So first of all, we've got this lovely kind of starburst effect going on the dial there, with this really nice sort of it's very, very blue. There's a hint of green in there. There's a hint of aquamarine. You know, they're trying to go for that kind of ocean color, obviously. It's a lot sort of greener than the previous Save the Ocean. And I personally think this is a much nicer blue. And so anyway, we've got that starburst, we've got the blue, and then we have these waves etched into the dial, wave shapes. There's a couple of the little tweaks. So there's a little, the end of the second hand, the back of the second hand there, we've got a kind of the tail of a shark sort of shape. And there's also a little shark's fin down at the 8 o'clock indice there. As you can tell, quite a lot of colour and angles and metal and shininess going on here. So it's a bit of a jewel box, I would say. And it's certainly quite a beast. So let's go through some of the specs. So first of all, we have a 180 gram watch here, so it's quite a heft, quite a bit of chunk going on. It's 13.4 thick, and it's 43 in diameter, 43.8, so near 44, 48 and a bit sort of lug to lug here. So overall, the measurements are all quite big, but because of the way it's designed, it wears really very well. I think because we have these tapered lugs, which I'm pretty sure they've directly ripped off from a Star Wars sandcrawler. If you look at that lug shape there, does that look like a sandcrawler to you? It certainly does to me. Anyway, so yeah, being silly, but yeah, the way they've designed it, sort of sweeping down and also sweeping in, it doesn't sort of have like a large footprint on your wrist, and it's sort of like, you know, it kind of really hugs your wrist in quite a sort of very comfortable way despite its size, and the way these lugs and the solid end links sweep down as well, it kind of all helps it sort of conform to the you know, to your body, basically to your wrist shape. In terms of the bracelets, it's pretty nice, it's pretty solid. The you know, the bits are all solid. It's a bit of a faff to size, I won't lie to you. Sizing these can be a pain in the ass. There's little collars to lose and things like that. One place where they have cheaped out on is the clasp. It is a pressed clasp, not a milled clasp, so it's not quite high end. But then, you know, this isn't a hugely expensive watch, so you don't really you expect them to cheap out somewhere, and I think the clasp is where they've cheapened out. But it works and it's fine and it's solid. It doesn't feel cheap, it just doesn't feel sort of high end, the clasp that is. The watch itself, the quality does seem extremely high. I've been poring over it with a you know, macro lens, and I've yet to find any faults at all. You know, in terms of everything's aligned perfectly, the chapter ring and the indices and the actual bezel has quite a nice solid feeling action, one directional bezel as you'd expect on a diver watch. So let's go through some more of the specs. So it's 200 meters. We've got a screw down case back going on. We've got a screw down crown. So it's a proper dive watch as you'd expect. It's hacking and hand winding. So this is the 4R35 movement, which has about a 40-hour power reserve. It's basically exactly the same movement as what's in the new Seiko 5 Sports range, which is in this one here. But this is the 4R36, which has the day date, as you can see, and this has only the date. So yeah, so 4R36 just date, 4R35 just date, 4R36 day date. But apart from that, they're identical basically. So yeah, so hacking and hand winding, so you can get your second hand bang on to the atomic clock and all that kind of thing. And if you've left it in the closet for a while, you can wind it up rather than having to do the old Seiko shuffle. So yeah, it's everything that what you'd expect from a Seiko around about this price range. But in terms of the actual build quality of the watch itself, I do think it's exceptional. The watch head, the way it's been sculpted, we've got a mixture of sort of high polish and brush. It does show up fingerprints quite quickly. I have to keep wiping the pesky thing off. But yeah, we've got a nice mixture of different surfaces, and it's very masculine. It is a very, very masculine sort of brutal watch. It does look like it's been sculpted with a very fine-toothed chainsaw rather than a rather than sort of a delicate hand. But the machine work that's there is to a very high quality. We've got some really nice sort of, you know, texture going on the actual crown. Some nice sort of, there's a good grip on the bezel, but it's not sort of rough. I do find that even though I still really love my Seiko 5 Sports, I do find that the bezel on this, the edge of the bezel is a little bit kind of rough, whereas this is textured and rough, but not sort of harsh rough. It's a little bit more refined. Yeah, and the actual bezel itself, so we have these kind of record grooves, and these etched in. Every indice and every number there is etched in. You know, it's a physical thing, so it's not just painted on, it's not just applied. Got a little loom pip at the top there, at the top of the bezel, which is quite nice if you do, you know, if you do use it as a proper dive watch, then it does actually have an indicator, whereas something that they missed out on the Seiko 5 Sports. We have, yeah, so they have the blue around from 12 o'clock around to 3 o'clock, and then this sort of grey silver for the last three segments on the bezel. And yeah, I think that's a really nice color combination. It's just very attractive. It's very, yeah, like I said, it's kind of like almost like stained glass window or chocolate boxy. Like it does have it really does shine, the blue in it. It's a much nicer blue than the previous Save the Ocean range. That was much darker and sort of flatter. This has got some real life to it. As you can tell, when I move it around, it really catches the light with that starburst on the dial. And it has like a hint of green, a hint of like ocean green, but a very rich blue. And then that mixed with all the, you know, the silvers and the brushed steel and the polished steel. But either way, yeah, really happy with this. I was a bit concerned because, yeah, cause my wrists are not particularly big, they're about 7 inches. I'm not a big chap. Not like a, you know, big meaty chap. I'm sort of more delicate, sort of you know, thinner wrists basically. So I was a bit concerned this was going to be just too much watch, but it wears really well. It just sort of, it hugs the wrist, and yeah, you know, it does protrude a fair amount. I'm not going to lie to you, and you certainly do notice the weight, but it does seem to do a very good job of conforming to the wrist shape. And yes, really comfortable, really comfortable. I mean, you do feel like you could probably knock somebody out with it if you needed to. Like, you're very aware of its weight, you know, at 180 grams. But yeah, no, I'm really very happy with it. The loom is fantastic as well. I'll show you a shot of the loom. It's typical, you know, high-end Seiko loom stuff. It lasts for a long time, and it's really bright. I'll show you a couple of shots of that. And yeah, I think I've covered about everything now. So yeah, it's a beast, but it's a beast that even I think you could get away with wearing this even if you have a really big wrist or even if you have a reasonably small wrist. I think you'd be able to get away with it either way, just because of the shape of it, because it doesn't stick out up here. It slides down, you know, it slides down over the wrist on these angles, and you know, the actual lug points are quite in close to your body. So even though it's not super thick, but it's a bit of thickness going on there, but it doesn't feel like it protrudes or sticks out too much, in my opinion. You know, your money, I mean, you know, compare it to something like this, you know, there's a big old difference there in terms of sizing and everything, but it is still very wearable. Yeah. Anyways, I think I will leave that there. It's just a little quick video just to give you a little look-see on this little puppy. And yeah, it's a beast. I do really like it. It's brutal. If you're slightly concerned about having such a brutal looking watch, then this isn't for you. I think you need to be a little bit either a slightly bigger chap, or just don't mind a watch that has such an edge. And when I say edge, I mean edge literally, and edge in terms of, you know, it just really sort of pops, and people may notice it because it's a little bit I don't like the word bling, but you know, it's certainly not a shrinking violet, is it? Let's face it. By the way, one last thing, you might have noticed this, this strap is absolutely brilliant. I picked this up for my my 5 Sports, and it's from Uncle Seiko, and it's formed fitted. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant, highly recommended. I just thought I'd mention that because obviously I flashed it into the video a minute ago. But yeah, seriously, this is such a good strap. They're a little bit pricey for what they are, and they're a bit hard to get hold of, but super, super good. But anyway, there you go, guys. That was a little look at my new Seiko, and it is a hell of a beast. You know, you're very aware that you're wearing it, so it's not discreet, but I do think it's an absolute beaut as well. It really is. It's very, very pretty and very sort of there's a lot to look at there. There is a lot to look at, a lot to feast your eyes on when you're checking the time. Anyway, guys, I think I'll leave that there. Peace out, and I hope that was useful.